On the border road of East and West Emnet, Orc scouts make camp on their way back to Mordor. They are led by Nazgul and place their camp near the remains of an old trade house. A Rohan patrol had been tracking them for days and decided to forego their horses to gain the element of surprise. Welcome to Battle Companies, presented by MGM, a great place for casual gaming. This is our first game of Middle-earth Battle Companies, and we've got the forces of Mordor against Rohan. The Orcs have a starting force of 9, 3 with shield, 2 with spear, 2 with double-handed weapons, and 2 with bows. We'll be proxying 2 models today for bows, as it appears we don't have any. The warriors of Rohan will have 7 fighters, 3 have a shield, 2 will have bows, and 2 will have throwing spears and a shield. The scenario we're playing today is Plunder the Camp. The Orc camp will be set up within 6 inches of the center of the board, and they will be our defender today. The Orcs will deploy anywhere in the camp and place 5 objective markers in the camp at least 2 inches away from each other. The warriors of Rohan will then deploy anywhere at least 6 inches away from the camp. For objectives, Rohan must get the objective markers, essentially destroying the Orcs' provisions and equipment. Once a battle company has been broken, the game may suddenly end. Rohan is attempting to get at least 4 objectives. The Orcs are trying to allow no more than 2 to be destroyed. Special rules in this game will be the dark of night, and due to reduced visibility, models cannot be targeted by shooting or special abilities over 6 inches away. Shooting attacks will be +1 to wound, however. Another special rule is light the fires, and during the end phase, any attacking model that is in base contact with an objective marker that did not make a shoot or fight action may attempt to set it ablaze on a 4+. A key note is within 2 inches of the fire is considered daylight, which means models can be seen and shot. Lastly, all or nothing. The attacker sets all objectives ablaze. They will receive an additional influence point at the end of the scenario. Should the defender prevent all objectives from being destroyed, they will receive 1 additional point at the end of the scenario. We hope you enjoy this narrative take on Middle-earth strategy battle game. Turn 1 is coming up next. And turn 1 underway, the forces of Mordor win the initiative and begin to reshuffle some of their soldiers around, now knowing where the Rohan fighters are approaching from. The 2 Orc warriors moving here do get spear support. Nazgul then moves, and this Orc with a spear, we are proxying that he actually has a bow. He is going to remain stationary. Inside the building, 2 Orcs with 2-handed weapons come out front. Up top we have an Orc with a bow that is going to move into a firing position, but remember, you can't target anyone over 6 inches. As we move to Rohan, one of the sergeants is going to march forward. The 2 bowmen are going to move forward as well. Moving up through the crop rows, we do see more warriors of Rohan that are going to split off, trying to get the Orcs to pick a target. With all fighters being over 6 inches away, there's no shooting, and turn 1 comes to a close. The Orcs moved forward, forming a shield wall on the objectives, while Rohan tries to bait them into some charges. Turn 2 begins with the forces of Mordor once again taking the initiative, and they do start to close the gap on the Rohan warriors marching forward with spear support. One of the Mordor sergeants announces a charge into one of the Rohan warriors, and we are treating this as fighting over a barricade. Nazgul does follow alongside them. The Orc bowman shuffles around, and he is followed by 2 Orcs with 2-handed weapons. Another Orc with bow takes a climb test and jumps down, continues his move. Meanwhile, for the Rohan side, they are going to react, one of these sergeants charging into one of the Orcs with a 2-handed weapon. 2 of the Rohan warriors with bows are going to get into cover. One of the warriors with a throwing spear is going to charge into the spearman in the back, negating his support. Another is going to attempt to charge in here, throwing his spear first. His spear will narrowly miss, and he charges into contact with a sword. The leader, Hagar, then charges into contact as well, making this a 3-on-2 situation. Moving to combat, the Rohan warrior is outnumbered 2-to-1 against Gaz, one of the Orc sergeants. He does win the duel roll, pushes them back, and strikes true with a 5-up, taking him off the board. The next combat is an Orc and Rohan warrior. The Orc warrior has a 2-handed weapon, so his duel is -1. The Orc warrior wins, pushing the sergeant back and then strikes, but he does not get enough to take the sergeant down. The next duel is 1-on-1, fighting over this crop barricade. The Orc warrior takes it, pushes him back, but does not make the kill. We then follow up with a 2-on-1, but the Orc spearman does push them both back, and he then takes down the leader. A point of fate is used to try to prevent the wound, but to no avail, and the Rohan warriors find themselves without their leader. We prepare for turn 3 with initiative rolls, and the forces of Rohan are going to take this one. We've got one of the spearmen charging into one of the Orc spearmen. Before getting into contact, he chucks a spear, which lands a hit, but he is unable to wound, and he finishes moving into contact. Both of the warriors with bows are going to march forward. We also see a charge from the sergeant into one of the 2-handed warriors. The remaining 2 Rohan warriors in the crop rows declare charges as well. We do have another spear thrown over the crop row. It does miss, however. The Orc warriors will then be allowed to counter move, and we have a lot grouping up on the sergeant here. 2 two-handers and 1 Orc with a bow. They are going to situate to where they can box him in. Another Orc with a bow moves closer to the action, and we see Dazgul make his way around the crop rows and charges into one of the Rohan warriors already engaged. As we move into battle, the warrior of Rohan here wins that combat, pushes the spearman back, and attempts to slay him on a 5+ but fails. We then have a 1-on-1 where the Orc spearman is going to win, push back the swordsman, and then looks to slay him, but cannot. Dazgul finds himself in a 2-on-1 with one of the Rohan warriors, takes the duel, but is unable to take his opponent down. For Sergeant Uther, he is in a 3-on-1 as he is surrounded by 3 Orcs. He attempts to use his shield, the combat is tied, fight values are tied, and on a 4-up, good will win. They do not, so on the roll to wound, he is slain. Uther tries to use a point of fate to stay alive and ignore the wound, but it does not happen. Turn 3 closes quickly, and Rohan now down one of their sergeants and the leader. With turn 4 on the horizon, the Orc forces are going to take the initiative. We do see charges into the Rohan bows. Dazgul charges into contact, as do the rest of the Orc warriors. There will be a 2-on-1 situation here in the center as this Orc warrior is getting spear support. With Rohan forces unable to counter-move, we go right into the fight phase, and here we've got a 1-on-1. While the Rohan warrior Brahm is able to knock the spearman back, he is unable to land a blow. As we move to the center, the Orcs are in a 2-on-1. They do take the duel, pushing back the Rohan swordsman, but they are unable to land a strike. To their left flank, Dazgul is tied up 1-on-1. They tie on the duel, go to a 4-up for good, and it is good. He pushes Dazgul back, tries to strike, but he's unsuccessful. A 2-on-1 is taking place. You should roll these separately as there is a 2-handed weapon involved and one of the Orcs with a bow. They are going to take this, pushing the bowman back and then landing a decisive blow. Alongside him, Fulgar, one of the sergeants, is tied up with an Orc with a 2-handed weapon. The Orc wins the duel, pushes him back, and lands a strike, taking him out of action. Fulgar spends a point of fate to try to prevent this wound, but again it is unsuccessful. As turn 4 wraps up, the Rohan Battle Company is still not at 25% or less strength, so they are unable to voluntarily flee. As we roll off for turn 5, the Orcs take the initiative again and charge back into contact with the Warriors. The Warriors of Rohan fight valiantly, but when they do win a duel, they are unable to land a killing blow against the Orcs. The Orcs find themselves in a similar situation, even winning duels on a 2-on-1, pushing the Rohan warrior back, but again unable to find the mark. Even the Orc leader Dazgul gets bested in 1-on-1 combat, but the Rohan warrior is unable to wound him. The following turns would see one more Rohan warrior cut down before courage tests are failed, and the last 2 Rohan warriors attempt to escape into the night. And this game wraps up as a decisive victory for the Orcs. With all objectives intact at the end of the game, the Sergeant Zog was able to make a full recovery. Most of the Rohan warriors, including the leader Hagar and Sergeant Uther, make a full recovery. Unfortunately, the bowman Fulgar did suffer a leg wound, and he'll be -1 to move. In addition, Eomain, carrying one of these spears, was injured and will miss the next game. Alright, and with that, our battle report is done. I really hope you enjoyed this Middle-earth Battle Companies battle report. This is our first time doing it. Had a lot of fun. We are still learning the game and finding out what works. Overall, it was a pleasant experience, and I'm really looking forward to this narrative take on Middle-earth, bringing in some more factions, as it's really easy. You start with approximately 7 to 9 warriors per side, and go from there. Be sure to let me know what you thought about the game overall down in the comments and how we set up the overall style. Really looking forward to hear your feedback on that. Big thanks as always to the Supporters Club. Your names are on the screen now, as well as on a piece of our terrain somewhere. I really appreciate your support. It's by no means necessary. I always feel that if you've watched the video this far, you've done more than enough to support our channel, so thank you so much. I look forward to continuing to develop this story, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.